This is from my accounting days, so I'll just touch on this. I won't bore you too much with this stuff. But it's just good to be aware that there's a lot of ways that you can buy a property. Most common ways just as an individual. So if you're buying a house to live in just yourself as your principal place of residence, you'll buy as an individual or in joint names with your partner. So if that's your goal, that's the best way to structure a house to live in. But if you're going to go into investing, you have to look into potentially setting up companies, trusts, and another way of buying houses in a super fund. Briefly, if you set up a company, there's certain rules where you can buy property in a company and pay only 30% tax, but the problem is you don't have a capital gains 50% discount if you happen to sell it. So there's good and bad things. The best way for an investor to set up is through a trust. And if you're going to go down the track of investing, I recommend that you see an accountant, because you can't buy a house and then suddenly decide you want to put it in the trust, because then you'll be paying stamp duty the first time and then again the second. So it's just a good thing, if you are going to go down the investing path, to speak to an accountant, or on my website I'm going to have a few tips and hints on that, so you'll be able to jump on there and just get a good base understanding. So you don't jump in and without understanding that structure is a very important part of buying a house. Like I said, see you're an accountant, don't listen to me. Okay, just expanding on that. So your principal place of residence, you can buy as an individual or in joint names. Another thing to consider with this is the first home buyers grant. That also has implications, but that'll be covered later on. Investors. So if you're buying a negatively geared property, they usually recommend that the higher income earner, the property goes solely under their name, which is good for short-term purposes, because it means that they'll have bigger tax savings year to year. But the problem is at the other end of the scale, that if they sell the property, because their income's already higher and they've got a sale of a property on top of that, they're going to pay an extremely high amount of tax in that year. So it's something to be careful of. A lot of people just automatically think the higher income earner is the best place to put it, but it's not necessarily if you're going to sell at a certain point in time. Conversely, the lower income earner, it's the opposite. It'll be lower tax savings each year, but also lower tax on sale of the property. So if your strategy was maybe in 5 years' time to sell the property then, and you have one of the partners barely earning an income, it could be a better place to put it. Just forego having bigger tax savings year to year for the advantage of selling at a high cost, at saving high tax down the track. Okay, I'll just touch on finance before passing you over to Neil. Basically, I invited Neil from Mortgage Choice along because finance to me is a very important step in the progress of buying your first home. So rather than me explaining it, I'll get someone who's in the industry to have a chat to you. This is just one thing that I use to get started, just so you have an idea of what you can borrow. In my kit, I'll go through it, the first home buyer's kit. This particular thing you can get from realestate.com, and you can just punch in your details. So in this example, I've just put $40,000 as an income. This is the amount you can borrow as a rough guide. So you can borrow up to $290,000 and your monthly repayments will be that amount. Each field you fill out will make this graph change. So if you've got a joint partner, or if you've got other income coming in through possibly rental, that's always a good tip, that if you're buying a rental property, even though you don't own it yet, you can put in this space here that you're getting $12,000 a year rent in, even though you're not actually receiving it yet. And that'll definitely make this amount you can borrow go up. And there's all these other bits and pieces going there. So have a play around with that as step one, so that you've got a rough idea of what you can borrow.